right, it looks like the participants joining is slowing down a little bit, so hopefully everyone who planned to be on time is here, and obviously people will join later. But yes, welcome to this webinar on the path forward for immigration law, strategies for successful digital transformation in the legal industry. I'm Emily Lippincott. I'm a legal futurist here at Filevine. I'm a recovering corporate lawyer of 16 years in the Bay Area, and now work on a team at Filevine specifically that tracks technology and uses strategic ways to implement that, not only for ourselves, but for our customers as well. Here's a couple of things that we're going to cover today. We'll remind you on each of these topics, but first, we're going to talk about the future of immigration law, sort of things that are here now and what we see in the sort of next 1 to 2 years as to what's coming for the practice of immigration law. And then I think rather helpfully, we're going to give you some advice on how you can actually manage these changes, right, with the technology so that you sort of keep up with the future of immigration law itself. And then third, we're going to show you something that Filevine is doing to be able to enable that technology for you all. So, as I mentioned, I'm Emily Lippincott. I'm a legal futurist here with Filevine. I have with me here my colleague Dalia Phelps, who is a practicing immigration lawyer and joined Filevine to help us really increase our bench strength on our knowledge of immigration for our immigration customers. She's going to be kind of showing off the tool that we've built. I have also with me here Lourdes Fuentes. She's the CEO, current CEO of Sanabria and Associates. She oversees the firm's kind of operations and strategic planning so that they can ensure sort of consistent delivery of the highest quality legal representation as they're known for. She's also an advisory board chair of Cartaligo, which is an innovative company that was established with the aim of assisting legal professionals to modernize their practices. So she's really going to help us with that, now that we know what's coming, how do we actually affect these changes in our various practices? I'm also joined by Lorena Rivas, Rivas, who is the CEO of Rivas Associates. She practices currently in the immigration law space, and she was named to the Inc. list twice in 2023, once as a female founder, and then once for the regional 2023 Southwest list. So we've got quite the powerhouse set of panelists here, and we're really excited to kind of just get into things. I should mention, if you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A portion of the chat here on the Zoom to ask questions as we go. To the extent we can kind of fold them in, we will. If not, if there's time at the end, we'll address them at that point. So with that, let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the future of immigration law, and that's with Lorena. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Lorena, and then just let me know when I need to advance the slides.
Awesome. Well, glad to be here. I'm excited to be here. Immigration law is a dynamic field, so anytime we can combine technology and talking about the future of it, well, it excites me. So thank you so much for me being here. I'm Lorena Rivas. I am an immigration attorney, founder, CEO of Rivas and Associates, and I've been doing this for a while. And I will tell you that the last few years have just been rapidly changing. During the 4 years of the administration with Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and now with the Biden administration, there's been so many changes. And I know if you're an immigration practitioner, you have felt them in your heart, in your mind, in your exhaustion, in your shoulders. But let's talk about those changes and then some that are happening actually right now. So next slide. Okay. What is happening right now in the immigration law space? You guys have probably seen this left and right because immigration law is talked every day in the news. Every day there's something happening in the news, whether that's a new federal court case or a new administrative decision or policies being developed or the influx of migrants or asylum seekers or anything. It is constantly talked about. And because it's constantly talked about, well, there is some new things that are happening. And the first thing being there is new asylum applicants. Well, I say new, they're new, but they've been coming for several years now. But they are usually from Central America, but now we're even having additional from Venezuela, South America, where there's just a lot of turmoil, politics, country conditions have caused some issues as well. So new asylum applicants, and then that has resulted in state immigration laws being changed. And I'm sorry, Emily, was there a slide that you skipped over? Because nope, never mind. Then it was the next one. Okay, there we go. Okay, then let's go with this one, because this one is the one that guides me a little bit more. So thank you so much. Okay.
No problem.
As a result of the increase of the increase in asylum refugee seekers and, well, just the politics we are right now, immigration laws are usually federal law. Well, they are federal laws, but some states have taken upon themselves to create some kind of state immigration laws. And what I'm talking in particular is Florida, and just recently Kansas. It'll come into effect on July 1st. But they have now made penalties causing confusion, panic, fear in the immigrant community. And it's been done in the name of trying to lessen the number of undocumented immigrants coming into the states. So Florida, being the harshest of all, has now created certain penalties for bringing an undocumented person into Florida. That can mean if you're bringing somebody for, obviously trafficking, we do need to target that. But if you're bringing a family member who just happens to be in the United States already undocumented, they come into Florida, you're stopped by a police officer, they find out that you're undocumented, that your passenger is undocumented, you could have penalties. Other things that the Florida law has made is hospitals are now required to report the status of their patients. They are also requiring businesses with 25 or more employees to meet the standards, the federal standard of 50 employees or more of doing e-verify, as well as state driver's license may be acquired in other states that do permit undocumented immigrants from getting driver's license. They are not going to be valid in Florida. State tuition is also affected. Undocumented immigrants cannot get state tuition, even though resident tuition, even though maybe they went there, lived there, graduated from high school there. So harshness there. The Kansas immigration law is all about smuggling. So just like Florida, if you're found with somebody who's an undocumented immigrant there, you could be punished. And these punishments are pretty drastic. They're like felonies, so prison time. So it's creating all sorts of chaos and panic amongst the immigrant communities, also amongst legal practitioners. We constantly get phone calls from clients, hey, this is happening, what do we do? And I will say that these state immigration laws, they will be probably stopped in the legal process because they're just over very vague, and they're over encompassing. They are, coming up in odds with the federal laws. So I do see these being appealed, but until then, well, they're there. And of course, this creates more, like I said, panic and confusion. The other thing that did happen recently was the end of Title 42. Title 42 was a law that can be invoked when you are trying to protect your country against, well, here it was the case, it was health for COVID-19. And what it was done is, so people who were entering the United States, immigrants who are asylum seekers coming to the United States, they were not allowed to remain in the United States while they sought asylum. They were returned to Mexico. So that was the return to Mexico policy. And it all was done under the name of protection for COVID-19. Well, that program just ended. During that time, like I said, if you came to the United States seeking refuge, came and asked for asylum, you could be returned to Mexico to await your court dates with the immigration court. As a result of Title 42, there was a lot of courts set up at the border. They were called tent courts, where asylum applicants had to go to court. They were brought over to the United States to attend court, but then returned to Mexico to await their decisions or further court dates. Well, that just ended recently. So we went back to the decades-old rules regarding how to treat asylum applicants, which means if you seek asylum here in the United States, you're allowed to enter and you're allowed to fight for asylum here in the US. But that doesn't mean they're just released. It just meant that now it means that they're usually more detained. So our detention centers are now more filled with asylum seekers, and they usually remain detained in there until their asylum seekers are past what's called a credible fear interview. And once they pass that credible fear interview, then maybe they are released from custody to allow them to fight for asylum in front of immigration court in a non-detained manner. But if not, they must be detained. And if they don't pass that credible fear interview, then more than likely they will be deported. It's called an expedited order of removal and given a 5-year ban and returned to their countries. So in a good way, it's good that the Title 42 ended because people don't have to fight their case while detained in Mexico, while being in Mexico. Obviously, they're not detained in Mexico, but, and that was really hard on families and individuals seeking asylum because they had no resources in Mexico, and the crime delinquency in Mexico was starting just to be too much. So it allows them to fight for asylum here in the United States. But the negative at the end of Title 42 is that we now have the detention centers swelling up more, and the immigration courts are just more and more backlog. Immigration courts are so behind. I have court trials for my immigration cases that maybe this immigration case has been pending since 2015. Now, the priority for immigration courts right now is to handle the recent entrants or the people who are detained. So that just pushes back people who've been waiting for several years to fight for their asylum case or for deportation relief even further. So there's a negative and positive at the end of the Title 42. And to maybe help combat the backlog that the immigration courts have, they have now started turning finally to the usage of more technology. Immigration Court EOIR, Executive Office of Immigration Review, as it's called, has now started finally allowing electronic filings and converting cases to electronic. Now, they still have some old physical files that don't allow for electronic filings, but the usage of electronic motions, entry of appearances, that has been amazing. As me as a practitioner who practices in Oklahoma, and I usually appear in Dallas immigration court, so we'd have to always FedEx all our motions and briefs. Finally, that's starting to put it in, and we can just upload them to the system. So it's very welcome, this government using technology. Even in the USCIS and the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, they're pushing more for electronic filings, accepting of electronic payments, and I think this is going to be really beneficial. I think it's going to help with the backlogs. It's going to help with processing times. So it's a welcomed change in immigration laws. And finally, other things that are impacting immigration law is the vast misinformation out there, whether it's misinformation because they see it maybe on social media, these are our clients or these immigrants, or it's misinformation that's just relayed incorrectly from mouth to mouth, from who they speak with. They're not playing the telephone game really well, I should say. So that misinformation creates, again, more chaos and just uncertainty and even fear amongst them. Maybe these asylum applicants or these immigrants don't apply for relief that they're eligible for, apply for ways to gain status here in the United States, or maybe they're applying for things that they shouldn't, and it's going to cause future problems and put them in a worse situation. So misinformation, thanks to the usage and the availability of social media, has really contributed to it. But, that's always going to be there, misinformation, especially because the majority of these recent immigrants are not English speakers and from lower educational background. So, and coming from maybe victims of abuse, torture, or violence. So it's just, they have a lot of emotional trauma as well. So next slide. Okay, so how do we address these challenges? First of all, if you're an immigration practitioner, you have to be knowledgeable. You have to be constantly in the know. Immigration laws or immigration procedures are constantly changing, and it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So you have to be in the know, be part of groups that are really provide accurate information, updated information. One of the best is the ALA, which is the American Immigration Lawyers Association. I'm a member of it. I love daily. You get emails from them updating you. They send advisories and policy updates. It's just really good to be involved in there. I also recommend being involved on social media in immigration lawyer groups because maybe they don't have the legal updates as much, but they have the experience from thousands of practitioners giving their information about how maybe this jurisdiction does this, how this judge does this, how this USCIS office has interpreted things. So it's really important to be on the know. I'm kind of obsessed with the information, but I think you have to accurately and effectively represent your clients. So that's one of the best ways. The second thing is, now that you know this information, put that out there, make it part of your brand that you are knowledgeable, that you are caring enough to be constantly updated about your clients' possibilities and their cases. Put that out there on your website, social media, make it part of your brand. It will set you apart. You're not just another immigration practitioner. You are a wealth of immigration knowledge. It's just, again, you're an attorney, you know, let's be the best attorney by knowing that information. And then third, you have to be constantly using innovation to be able to better serve your clients. And what I mean by that is technology. Maybe, you know, I'd say you need a transition to paperless. You cannot be attached to a paper file. Things happen, documents are gone, notes are not taken as well. Technology, you know, scanning your documents, making it accessible to all your team to be better able to serve your clients. Technology is a great way to innovate and improve your processes and systems, and Lourdes is going to talk more about that. But another way is not only be, you know, welcoming of innovation and technology, but be welcoming in innovation and ways to serve your clients. Look for new ways of being able to find relief for your clients. Maybe it's not the prettiest or the most typical, but it still works. So be open to those new forms of relief for clients, whether it's maybe usage of like the T visa, the U visa, or usage of, you know, strategies in court to better present the arguments. Be open to that. And next slide. And let go of the old school lawyer thinking. You know, immigrants are your clients, should be the number one priority for you. Be fearless, provide fierce representation of them. And, you know, and that means that maybe you're doing, it's not so much worrying about, you know, oh, this is getting close to maybe my ethical, you know, you can still be ethical and be a fierce advocate. So don't worry about towing that line is what I'm trying to say. It's don't be fearful, be like, no. These immigrants need our help. The immigration laws are stacked against them. The policies are stacked against them. The state immigration laws are stacked against them. So don't back down from them. And since you're doing such a great and amazing job of representing your clients, you've got to price your services correctly. I know most of our clients we serve maybe are lower income, but you are still providing top dollar service for them. And if you do not do that, you're going to get burned out. So pay your value, charge what you're valued. And sometimes what you can do to help to lower your price is using a technology, because it will save you time, but also look into using virtual assistants. Virtual assistants can help answer phone calls, can help talk to clients, write declaration, complete forms. We're in 2023. Remote working works. Remote working is wanted by our staff. So allow them the ability to be remote workers. And you could use virtual assistants that are here in the United States or even international. There are some great quality applicants out there, very educated, very good in their language skills. And again, thanks to technology where things are on the cloud, things are digital, phones can be, you know, as well on the cloud. It allows you to be able to use this resource to better serve your clients. I would say in terms of immigration law recommendations, T visas. If you do not know what a T visa is, I would say learn it. It's a great way to serve your clients, to help your clients. I've been submitting more and more of those, and I'm finding more and more of them have higher rates of approval notices. It's just a victim of trafficking is a T visa, but that can be labor trafficking. It could be also sexual or abusive. So it can be in domestic violence situations. You can use a T visa. Coercion. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody brought somebody over here in the United States. You can get trafficked here in the US, even after years of being here in the US. And lastly, continue to try to get prosecutorial discretion in your court cases. I know the memo that was recently released by ICE regarding prosecutorial discretion was, there was an it was sued. There was a lawsuit pending against it. But still, many courts and many offices of chief counsel throughout the United States are still being willing to grant prosecutorial discretion to get cases administratively closed or terminated. I'd say continue to try to push for it, because there is a great big backlog, not just for the courts, but also for the trial attorneys. They also need to clean their docket. So feel free to push for it. I would say push for it. If you have any other form of relief, ask for it. It doesn't hurt to do it. And this just helps out maybe for your client who is not a priority in getting removed, or if they qualify for something else or about to qualify for something else. So great things to use there. Just continue advocating fiercely. Don't be afraid. Our clients need us. So let's be innovative and let's just push forward with it. So I think that's my last slide.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right. Thanks. I could see Lourdes and Dalia sort of nodding along with you while you were sharing some of that. And the thought that I had was, even though I haven't practiced in the immigration space, in some ways, there's things that go across the legal profession. And sometimes it is the clients asking for digital transformation that sort of gets us to look into it and adopt it, right? I'm curious for those maybe of our attendees who are newer to the immigration world than you are, the rate of change that we're seeing sort of today, which probably was affected, as you mentioned, by the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you think this is the new normal? Like, do you think it's going to continue to just change as rapidly as it has been, or do you kind of foresee that there might be a little bit of a leveling off?
Well, I think immigration law has been in the 1900s for a long time, so I think we still have more room to grow. Certainly, I've become more of a process thinker in my last few years of practice, and I'm always thinking, man, USCIS needs to develop a system here. They need help on this process. So they have so much more room to grow. So I do anticipate that there'll be still changes in improvements, hopefully, not in changes in the negative way, which sometimes does happen. And anytime there's an administration change, the president, the elections are coming around the corner, that always throws a loop in throws a wrench in everything. So if we get a new administration. So I anticipate it will continue to change, which is why I'm saying you got to innovate. You got to be constantly wanting to know more knowledge, always curious.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Lorena. Okay, so now that we've gotten kind of this several real world examples of how things are already changing, and the prediction is not gonna be any slower in the future. We brought on Lourdes here because this is kind of her area of expertise, right? Is how do we now, once we've recognized that changes are necessary, how do we actually implement those, which sometimes is the hardest part of the process. We're a company, obviously, that helps people often change their technology and how they do things. And the sort of people and change management is a huge part of that. So with that, Lourdes, let me go ahead and advance to the next slide here. Yeah, let's hop into it.
Yeah, let's hop into it. And I'm really excited to follow Lorena because I get so sort of, passionate about hearing from a social impact lawyer, right? And I think the bottom line is that a lot of the immigration practitioners out there are social impact lawyers. And one of the reasons that I was interested in joining this firm as an interim CEO is because I saw not only the need for this type of lawyering, but also the advantages that the right technology stack could make into the advancement of those immigration lawyers, right? We tend to think about some of these areas of law as not suitable for legal technology advancements and innovation. But I think of it as the total opposite. There is an urgency in using legal technology in fields like immigration. If I remember correctly, 2022 broke records of migration border crossings, close to 3 million. And that means that there are so many people out there, clients, potential clients that need help, right? So the more that we can help all of these immigration firms grow and service that community that is not otherwise served by anyone, it is really exciting and really needed. And I don't think It is a political issue, but it shouldn't be a political issue. It is really a human issue and a human rights issue. So it's very important to sort of focus on the urgency of using technology for that. The impact that the right technology could have in your firm can really be transformational. If you go from, look at this firm alone, they have grown from 5 or so lawyers 6 years ago to about 200 lawyers, serving, in 13 different offices. And all of that is because it is an innovative place of work, where the thinking behind the board and the leaders is that let's use technology to serve more people. And Lorena talked about many ways that you do that, the social marketing aspect of it, of course, updating your technology. But she said something at the end that really stuck with me, which is she's become more process oriented. And I really think that is the path forward, because as you folks at Filevine know very well, it doesn't matter what practice of law you're in. The technology is really the last component of this puzzle, right? First is how you upskill your people. Second is how you fix your processes, and then you put in the right technology, and then that's where the magic happens. So real life examples, Lorena gave a few, but you can tremendously increase your intake process and the efficiencies of that process using technology. You can also sort of serve additional geographical locations. You can cope with this remote and hybrid model in a way that you couldn't cope without using the right technology. You can make sure that you're fulfilling your professional and ethical duties, because you have templates that have been pre-approved. You have case law that is there for you, that you have easy access to, and you can meet the client's needs and their demands in a much better way. One of the last points that I want to make about the urgency of adopting technology and digital transformation is that we are seeing now regulatory reform, which means that in states like Utah and soon California, and same initiatives that are in other states, we will be able to serve clients even if we are not licensed to practice law. Because as a business, the business can be created by a person who's not a lawyer. And the person who's not a lawyer, if it's a business-minded person, can then create a law firm with lawyers, of course. To practice law, you need to be a lawyer. But in Utah and soon California and other places, people that are business people and not lawyers are going to be running law firms, and they are going to do that better than lawyers, because we were never trained to run a business. We were never trained with the technology. The big fear with the, in big law, the big fear with the big accounting for is that lawyers know that they do process better than anyone else. So regulatory reform really pushes kind of this urgency on some legal practitioners. My next slide is talking about the concept of digital transformation. And what I mean by that is not acquiring technology, is what we've been talking about. It is upskilling your people, making sure that you have people in your practice that are project managers, making sure that you have people in your practice that are process improvement experts, making sure that you have people in your law firm that can help you run the business so that you can practice law, right? Like the most amazing rainmakers are amazing rainmakers because they know the law left, right, and center. So let them be that, and then find a way where you can run your practice by having these project managers, process experts, technologists on board, a technology officer or a CEO that is willing and able to run the business in a way that will allow you to be the best that you can be in the field. So continue to embrace that digital transformation by creating this roadmap of focusing on your people and your process first. I think, and I'm sure that you'll talk about this at the end, generative AI is going to be huge. We are in the cusp of the 5th industrial revolution. And I am not exaggerating when I say this. We've gone through the first, the coal, using manufacturing. We've gone through the second, gas and petroleum and steel. We've gone through the digital transformation, which was huge, very quickly followed by the Internet of Things, which was the interconnection of all electronics. And now we have artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is going to exponentially make us more productive if we know how to use that. And this is why I'm excited to talk to you and for you to talk to the audience about how language learning models will be used within Filevine, because as exciting as artificial intelligence and this generative AI is, we cannot use it in a vacuum. We cannot use it with data sources that we don't trust. We cannot put the data of our clients, out there for everyone to see. So we have to do it in a controlled environment. And matter management companies and platforms like Filevine allow you to do that within one secure encrypted sandbox. So I think the potential of growth for any firm that embraces matter management systems that themselves are on the know and excited about using language learning models within their tool will outpace everyone else. I always say, lawyers will not be replaced by AI, but lawyers that use AI will replace those who don't. And that is very, very, very true. So where do we go from here today? If you go to my next slide, it focuses on the biggest problem that we have, which is embracing change management. Now, not to age myself, but I've been doing legal innovation work for about the last 15 years. I did litigation prior to that. And legal innovation work within the legal industry is very hard because changing is difficult for everyone, right? I mean, personally, changing anything is difficult. Even changing which supermarket you go to or which clothing brand you wear is difficult. So think about changing how you practice law when you don't know any better because you were never taught in law school. Your mentors that may have, given you your first, second, or third job didn't use technology the way that millennials are using it or Generation Z is using it. So changing is really, really hard. And I like the iceberg picture because when you reach the top of the iceberg, what you don't see is what's underneath. What's underneath is all of the hard work that goes into that change management process. And it is hard because, I mean, humans, we don't like to change. And doing that paradigm shift in a firm is very difficult. But once you do that, and once you make sure that you understand what change management theory is, which involves things like making sure that all of your users are on board, that all of your users understand why we're doing this. It's not that we want you, to change from X system to a Filevine or something else because the partner decided that that's the change that we're making. It's explaining how this is going to improve your life, training them on how this will improve your life, and then sort of guiding through the process. I always think of myself for the last 15 years as more of a cheerleader and a coach than anything else, right? Because I need people to understand the excitement of technology and innovation and sort of get on board with that. And I think having people within your organization that understand change management theory, in addition to project management or process experts, are very important. If you go to the next slide, it talks about the the resistant to technology, even changing from Google Drive to, Microsoft Office 365. I mean, things like that become like a huge roadblock within our different organizations. We think that it's going to be very expensive. So make sure that you do the ROI analysis. Make sure that you understand what you're paying for now and what you will be paying for later. And make sure that you do that analysis where you go through the process of saying, if we get this new technology, we can then get rid of X, Y, and Z. And this technology will help, 5 people do the work of 20. And then understand how the budget makes sense, and then keep track of whether you're successful at making 5 people do the work of 20. All of that will continue to inspire you to keep growing within that issue. The lack of expertise, again, there are outside consultants, there are people that you need to look for, there are legal technology vendors that have expertise in-house that are willing to share that expertise with you. So don't think that you can do it all yourself. You cannot. This is a separate legal technology, and operations is a separate field because it needs to be, because no one has time to do both. The timing issue, even to make the decision to move to a new initiative, you need to dedicate time, and the executive functioning part of your brain needs to spend time thinking about that. So when you do your time management, personal time management, dedicate, half hour of your day to think about, how are we using technology? What is my legal technology map looks like? What's my roadmap? What is the next step? What are the priorities? Human resource. Again, I always believe that upgrading your teams internally in terms of getting the right people on board, but also upskilling your team can be really helpful, because it doesn't matter if you bring a whole bunch of consultants in, your people know your process and how you think and how you act. So you need to transform your people as well. I hear from a lot of lawyers that they're concerned about, privacy issues and not securing the data. And what I can tell you is that using a better management system is more secure than using a shared drive or using the cloud or using a managed service provider. So try to understand what you mean by, security and privacy concerns, and then learn how other managed service providers and legal technology platforms can actually give you that confidence that you may think you have, but you do not. So again, a paradigm shift of how you're thinking. The next slide, which is my last slide, but I think is the one that should be the takeaway. It sort of gives you a little map of what you do, right? The first thing any law firm should do is you do an assessment, and you bring someone to help you do the assessment and identify the areas of improvement and prioritize them. And then you can prioritize based on budgets and client needs and business needs, but you have to prioritize what this technology assessment analysis has given you and what you're going to do going forward. Implementing agile methodologies, that goes to what I spoke about before, which is get a project manager, or it could be a temp or staff, a virtual, but get a project manager that understands project management, get a process expert, and sort of implement like your scoping document and your timeline. It all has to be mapped out, right? Collaborate with the people that you are buying technology from, right? We have the most valuable source in the people that we are engaging. And oftentimes we purchase a technology stack and we try to do it in-house, or we hire a consultant and we forget to talk to the vendor about what your needs are, about how you wanted to customize your form. Really have a partnership with your legal technology vendor going forward. Don't think about this as a one-time purchase, but think about this as a lifelong partnership, because I'll tell you this from experience. Once you've done the due diligence and have selected who you want to go with, you will have done that because that company has given you some assurances, right? That you and some kind of confidence that you can work with them. Changing every 2 or 3 years to a new vendor does not help, because then you start from zero. What helps is dedicating time and figuring out, why is this not working with the vendor that I selected after spending a long time vetting other people? Why is it not working? Why do I need to change? And talk to your vendor about that. And if you don't have time, bring the right consultant to do that mediation. It's very important to not let these relationships fail, because the investment at the beginning, you will recoup it, but the investment at the beginning is large. So dedicate time and have people within your organization or trusted advisors that can help you with that. And then this is not one time and done. Just continuously look at it, every 6 months, every year. Continuously train your people, train them on cybersecurity, train them on the new tools. Every tool is upgraded all the time. Lawyers don't know what their upgrades are or how they can do it differently. Make sure that you're not paying for 2 things at once, right? If you can do e-signing within Filevine, don't pay for DocuSign or Adobe Pro. Like, all of these little things really add up to significant savings if you actually do a strategic analysis and a roadmap going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And especially coming from the vendor side, I loved what you were saying at the end there. Like, we are looking for that partnership, right? We don't want to have to only reach out once, a year or whatever when your contract is up. And I think both of your firms, you and Lorena, have been great examples of that partnership, because you've been helping us as we're building the tool that we're launching on August 1st. And that's actually where we're headed next, is to show off that tool. But you've been great partners, with us in that build to say, hey, if I could design a system, here's what I would look for, right? Or here's how I would do that. And that's been invaluable from our perspective. So before we hop into the kind of the show and tell of what Filevine is offering in this immigration space specifically, just want to remind people, if you've got questions, go ahead and put them into the Q&A tab in the system. And we did actually have one question come through that I thought was pretty interesting, and wanted to just kind of throw it out there before we hop into the last piece, which is, what would you all say is kind of the #1 client complaint in the immigration space? This person is sort of familiar with other legal practice areas and kind of thinks client communication might be that. Does that hold true for immigration as well, or do you think it's something different?
I think for me, it's the same thing too, as well. We as lawyers are constantly trained of just like doing the work, going to court, but we are just not good communicators with our clients. And our clients are just like any other business. We need to provide excellent customer service to them, and we just haven't been trained about it. And there is some technology tools out there that have should make it easier for you, but I think that's the #1. And client communication, but them understanding the complexity of the immigration system, that just creates more confusion as well. And the processing delays, the backlogs, clients complain, why is it taking so long? And it's like, well, it's not our fault. We filed it, we did it, we're waiting on it. It's the government's fault. Let's be angry at them. But to me, those seem to be the top 3 complaints.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Okay, so we are now going to move into the show and tell portion of what Filevine has been working on, like I said, specifically in the immigration space, to help kind of allow people to maybe more easily move into the, accept the digital transformation and then apply it kind of in their own practice areas. So I'm going to turn the time over here to Dalia, and apologies, Dalia, I may, hop in and add color here. But she's going to kind of walk us through what Filevine has to offer. And it does have an AI component. So Lourdes was exactly right on that. And we're excited to show it to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Emily. I'm very excited to just be on this panel, honestly, with Lourdes and Lorena. And super excited to show you guys not just the immigration tool that, of course, we're going to be showing off today, but also some of my favorite utilities inside of Filevine and how our immigration clients are using it today. So we're going to talk about communication within the platform, how we keep your information, how we manage your documents, the power of search within Filevine. We will touch on Filevine document assembly, and then we'll get into, of course, the new tool. Next slide. All right, so before we get into everything, I do want to make sure, in case anyone is not familiar with Filevine today, I wanted to give us a little bit of an orientation. So if we look up at the top, you're going to be able to see the case name. Right beneath it, you're going to see the main client contact. If you have a VoIP system, you'll be able to click to dial. You're going to also be able to click to email. If we look over to our right side, this is what we call the project vitals. This is a window that you can keep closed or pop open, and it's going to be 15 key data points from your case that you want to have access to immediately. So maybe you get a last minute phone call that you weren't expecting that day. This is the information that's going to keep you up to date with what's going on. Right above it, you will have some hashtags. So within the system, you'll be able to use hashtags. Maybe you want to quickly be able to note the country of origin or something like language. This is also going to be you're going to be able to pull up lists, and you're going to be able to leverage these using reports. If we look over on the left-hand side, these are going to be all of our tabs that will take us into the different sections where we collect information for the actual immigration case. Now, I do want to remind you that Filevine is very customizable, very configurable. So this specific view that we're looking at is customized towards information that you would gather for an immigration case. But if your firm has more than one practice area, you can definitely have more than one case type with different tabs, different information that you're keeping track of. Next slide. All right, so here we're looking at the tab where all of your documents are going to live. So whether you have documents coming in through text messages, maybe your clients send you pictures, maybe you are using one of our email plugins to drag in attachments or documents. This is where all those documents are going to land. You're going to be able to organize them into folder trees. And not only are you going to be able to search through them by title, but when they come in, Filevine is going to OCR them for you. That means that you're going to be able to also search through the content of the document. Next slide. Okay, and this is one of my favorite things in Filevine, share link. This is going to allow you to share a folder or different parts with a guest. So essentially you can create a folder, permission it off, maybe with a password, maybe an expiration date, and you'll be able to drop in documents for their review. Maybe it's your client, co-counsel, and they can also go in, review that, and drop in documents for you. This is a great place for you to drop in that document checklist, and your client can use this same area to put in those documents, upload those pictures of the documents that you're going to need from them. You're going to be able to get back in there, review it, maybe delete anything that doesn't work, right? So maybe they sent you the wrong document, or maybe something is too blurry. You will be able to, within Filevine, text your client, let them know, hey, the marriage certificate was kind of blurry. Please upload a more clear picture. And this is really going to cut back on all the emails, all the back and forth with your clients to make sure that you have the right documents for them. Next slide. All right, so this is going to show us how we search within a case. Here you're going to see in the middle, there's a bar with all the different filters we're going to be able to use. So maybe you know that the word or the phrase that you're looking for is in a text or maybe in an email. You can just select those two and search through that case, text messages, emails, for whatever it is that you're looking for. Now the next picture, that's going to give us that global search. If you have different case types, or maybe you're looking for documents across your different cases, on the left-hand side, you're going to have different filter options, the projects you want to select, the hashtags that are associated. Next slide. All right, so now we've gotten to Filevine document assembly, FVDA, definitely a time saver. This is going to allow you to really upgrade and become more efficient with any legal writing, whether we're talking about just a cover letter for your filings, or maybe support letter, recommendation letters that you're drafting for clients, asylum briefs, whatever it might be. It's going to allow you to generate live living documents based on your work templates. Or if you don't have any templates yet, you can work with us to build those templates from your previous work. In here, you're going to see some of the information that we've collected from an O1 visa client, and we're going to be able to generate a support letter using that information and one of our templates. If we look at the next slide, this is going to pop open that generation. And down at the bottom, we're going to see the blue highlighted areas where it's going to allow us to select the specific education or maybe particular publications that we want to include in this letter. And in that next picture, we're going to be able to see how it auto-populated the flow of that letter. Next slide. Now, FVDA is going to allow you to bidirectionally sync. So if you're in there working on the letter, making edits, and you realize that there is a mistake, you can make the edit in the letter and it'll automatically update it as well inside of Filevine, wherever that piece of data lives. Next slide. All right, so in here, now we're showing off FVDA's collaborative environment. What's great about this is that everyone is always working on the most current version of the document. So if I'm in the first paragraph making edits, writing that, Emily can jump in and work on any other section, paragraph of the letter. So she's only going to be locked out of the specific paragraph that I'm in. Next slide. Also, if we remember that we need to add some information about the specific research center, and we know that we've written about that Columbia University Research Center before, and it's in our templates, it's going to give us a clause library. So we can type that in and be able to choose from the different paragraphs that we've written in the past to reuse our own work and rework that into this letter. Next slide. All right. So now we've gotten to what's exciting about today, which is showing off the new tool. Emily, are there any questions that we can answer?
Nothing for this. Yeah, just want to reiterate that everything that Dalia just walked us all through is available in Filevine today. So what we're going to move into now is the sort of next generation of technology that we're going to offer starting on August 1st. So let's just get into it because this is what I've been waiting for.
All right. So yeah, so this is going to be an immigration specific tool. We're super excited about it. It will be a USCIS form filler. So right here, we're looking at that first step. What we will do here is select all of the personas that are going to be involved in this filing. So perhaps the assigned attorney, if there's a sponsor and a beneficiary, maybe there's an interpreter involved. It's also going to allow us to select which of these parties are going to need a G28 from me. Next slide. The best slide, really the exciting part of this tool is that it's going to allow us to take immigration documents that we've collected from our clients and scan them through AI. Now, when it launches on August 1st, it's going to allow us to scan through any identity documents from category A and B of the I-9, whether those documents are in English or in Spanish. Shortly thereafter, it will also be scanning over 170 languages. So really breaking down barriers of language, not just with our clients, but really in our service. Next slide.
Yeah, I'll just add to that really quickly. So the beauty of this is that the document sort of share process in that section that we showed you in Filevine, if they're already in there, we'll just pull them straight in. If they're not, you can just upload them, right? So we're really kind of streamlining, you know, the documents that you're capturing, putting them in a place where they're going to be easy to find and secure, you know, as Lourdes mentioned. And then we're going to use the power of AI to pull out key data from that. So, okay, now I'll go to the next slide.
Yeah, so already making so many efficiencies, right? It's already in Filevine, or it will be in Filevine. So once we get that scan, so perhaps for the sponsor, you had a passport, a driver's license, and once you scan that in, it's gonna extract all of those important data points that we're gonna need for the questionnaire and then eventually for the forms, but also it's gonna let you know of any discrepancies that it found. So maybe during intake, we wrote his name down as Chris, but all his legal documents show him as Christopher. Or maybe we typed in wrong his date of birth, and now we know from his passport and his birth certificate his actual date of birth. We're going to be able to select from those discrepancies the information that it is that we want moving forward. And not only is that going to be more efficient for you, but it will also be more efficient for your clients as they bring you these documents and they help with filling out the questionnaires. Next slide. All right, on this slide, we're going to be able to select the USCIS forms that we are going to be working with. So perhaps in this one, an I-130, the G-28, and an affidavit of support. Next slide. Once we know which forms you want generated, it's going to create questionnaires for all of those personas that you've initially selected. So we're going to be able to send out links to each of those and gather the specific information that each of them will have that we need for those forms. It's going to be presented in a very clean, simple format. It's only going to collect information that we need. So for example, if your client has never had any other names, they'll be able to move on to the next question. Next slide.
Yeah, just one thing to add on the questionnaire is so we've designed it to be as user-friendly as possible. And the idea is whether it's you with the client in your office kind of doing a live intake and typing it in, or a link that you're sending to them to fill out, it's going to be sort of what I would call plain English, right? Very easy to sort of flow through. You can save your place and come back, right? If it's one of the longer applications with more questions in it. And as Dalia mentioned, this will be in 170 plus languages on August 1st. So the questionnaire itself, that information gathering process, is going to be as streamlined as possible for you and your clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Emily. And yeah, so this will be available right away in over 170 languages. Again, just making it so much easier to collect the information that you need from everyone involved. So here we just have an example of how it'll start autofilling, generating that form for you. I do want to mention we will be keeping up the most current edition of every form for the USCIS bank. And as well, once we generate these, you will always have editing capabilities. So of course, everyone knows there's last minute changes up until that day that you print for wet signature, maybe new addresses, new jobs, whatever it might be. You're still going to have the ability to edit even once the form has been generated. And once it is generated, it's going to live back where I initially showed you in that document library. So again, cutting back on all those inefficiencies of having to download, re-upload from one system to another, kind of like Lourdes touched on, just keeping everything secure under one umbrella, one ecosystem. One more slide.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
All right, so this is going to be that bird's eye view of the tool. It's going to show you all of the packets that you're currently working on. Some are in progress, kind of like Emily mentioned. Some of these are lengthy and people might need to take a break, come back, get the information in there. Some of them are completed and some of them maybe you haven't sent out yet. But this is kind of like the dashboard view. Emily, any questions on the tool so far? Anything we can answer?
No, I actually answered a couple live, so I think we're all set on that. I'm mindful of how much time we have left here. And so let me first of all say to all of our attendees, thank you so much for coming. We will be sending out the slides with the recording once it's available. So if you were frantically taking notes, that's great, but just understand you're going to get all of the amazing content from our panelists today in your inbox with a link to the recording as well. Let me just remind everybody, or I guess if you didn't already know, let me tell you that we are going to be at AILA, which is, as was mentioned by Lorena, right, is a great resource for keeping up with kind of current technologies and changes in the law. We're going to be at the conference. We'd love to have you swing by the booth and even just say hi. Booth number 622. Thank you, Lorena and Lourdes, for sharing your expertise with us. I think this was super helpful, and we're excited to launch our product on August 1st using the great work of your teams as you've been helping us build it. So with that, we will go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you all again for attending.